hazmat exercise. So we had to suit up in these Tyvek suits and go into this compartment where we didn't really know what had happened. We just saw these bodies, which are these mannequins, and we had to make an assessment. So there were two of us who went in, who did the assessment. We had communications to one of our other group that was outside in the decontaminated area, and we're doing this exercise. Again, this is based on a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation. Normally you get a week before you do this exercise, a whole week of PowerPoint presentations and preparation exercises. We had 15 minutes, you know, half a dozen slides, okay, off you go, do this test exercise. So, because we're astronaut candidates, right, so we're expected to be able to pick this stuff up quickly. So this exercise lasted about an hour, and again, no feedback, they don't tell you anything about how you did. And there's a little bit, it wasn't perhaps all that fair, because not so much in the hazmat, not so much in the damage control, but in that sort of situation you have these numbers that identify you. And sometimes it's pitch black. You can't see what the person next to you is doing, never mind an instructor looking to see or trying to evaluate how everybody is doing. So what, especially in the firefighting, I think it was difficult sometimes, especially when we did the smoke-filled rooms exercises, they couldn't see what we were doing. They had no way of evaluating how we did, except for situations like this, where you could, I mean, I can't see a single number there. Maybe that number there, but this is from the perspective of the instructor. He's looking at us, doing what we're supposed to be doing, and trying to evaluate us. But I think it was difficult for them to really evaluate accurately what we were doing and what we weren't doing. So after all that, they selected 16 to go to. This is where it really hurts, because the 16 were interviewed at my place of work at DRDC Toronto. That's where they did the interview. So I was there, so I tried to make myself invisible because it was just too painful to be there that week. But anyway, at the end of it, they selected Jeremy, who's at the podium there, and David St. Jacques. David St. Jacques, Sterling candidate, got a PhD in astrophysics from Cambridge University, and he's a medical doctor. Can't argue with that. And he's a nice guy. Jeremy Hansen I don't know as well. He's one of the best fighter pilots in the Canadian Forces. They'll be great astronauts, no question about it. So they're doing the astronaut training now. They started in August last year. They'll be finished sometime end of this year probably. And then they may get a flight assignment, but the Canadian Space Agency doesn't have any money now because they've used up all their credits on the International Space Station. So they don't know how they're going to fly or when they're going to fly. So what do you do if you've spent all your life trying to be an astronaut and you don't make it? Because the next selection, it's going to be another 15 years, maybe 10 years if we're really lucky, more likely another 15 years before they make a selection. So chances are it's going to be a long shot to make it as a government astronaut, even for you guys with the Canadian Space Agency. So the next best thing, and this is the future probably, it's going to be organisations like this, which I'm the training director for, Astronauts for Hire. Which is very similar to what you have here, really, but we're just trying to make it all legal and above board, and we're trying to earn money. So what we're trying to do is hire ourselves out as astronauts, and again we have a training qualification standard, which includes things like the NASA suborbital science course, parabolic flight experience, scuba diving experience, pilot's license, parachuting experience, all those things. So right now we have a reduction with NASA to do the first course later this year or beginning of next year. We're getting federal status. Just submitted the suborbital training plan and the orbital training plan, working on that, and we just got the first job offer last week, which is to do a parabolic flight for a beer company. So it's not just not suborbital flight and orbital flight, it's also a parabolic flight. That's the mission statement. So anybody can join. All you have to do is to be willing to spend a bit of time, helping the organisation to fulfil its mission. So that's the mission, that's the vision. And that's what we're doing right now, is trying to raise money for training, because it's expensive. To do the science suborbital course is around $5,000, parabolic flight is $4,000, with Zero G Corporation. Unusual attitude training in Starfighter down in Miami. I think we can get that for $8,000. It's a lot of money, basically. That's per person. So what we're trying to do is try and find sponsors that can help us. I mean, we're obviously pitching in some money, but trying to get sponsors to help us out. And then eventually develop an in-house training program, which is being developed by myself and Erika Wagner, if you remember her, know her rather, works for the Mars Society. And then when these flights start in 2012, hopefully, for no more delays, we're talking about Virgin Galactic, Space Dev, rocket plane maybe, Star Chaser in the United Kingdom, Blue Origin, those operators, then we can make ourselves available for people who want to conduct research, for example, who don't have trained astronauts in-house, which is more than likely. So they pay us, they say, right, here's $5,000, please fly our experiment on a suborbital flight, and that's what we'll be doing. And then later in the day, orbital flights, hopefully. That's probably a bit longer in the future. So that's where I am at right now, is hoping for a flight and get paid for it, not as much as an astronaut, but who cares about the money, as long as you get the flight, that's the main thing. So hopefully get a flight maybe in 2012, 2013, that sort of time frame. And then maybe if this all takes off, which I'm sure it will do, through the activities of Bigelow and other operators, then orbital flights maybe towards the end of this decade. Alright, so that's about it really. So thanks for listening, and if anybody has any questions, then I'll be happy to take them. Yeah.
So what do you think the chances are for people like us and people in the astronaut for hire to get flights within the next 10 to 20 years? Like, is it going to be a big thing where a lot of people get to go, or is it going to be a few key people that are expert commercial astronauts?
No, this is going to be this is the future of manned spaceflight right now. Is commercial operators. You have so many. If something happens, if there's a fatality, then the FAA will step in. Right now, they're hands off. They've provided some guidelines which should go to 2012, and they'll revisit those guidelines. But with so many operators coming on board, it won't necessarily be space tourism. That's where most people think is going to be the big growth in manned spaceflight, is space tourism. It won't. It'll be science and technology. Most flights will end up, there'll be a big spurt in space tourism to begin with, but as the industry settles down, you'll see more and more flights for science and technology and research, and that's where you come in as an astronaut for hire, is that you can deliver those payloads. So yeah, that's where it's going to happen. Yeah.
And in terms of a PhD, what subjects do you think will be of particular interest for government or commercial astronauts 15 years from now?
Engineering. You look at all the occupations, all the jobs wanted in Bigelow, Blue Origin, all those occupation sites, it's engineers all the way through. Yeah, so I'm not an engineer, I'm a life scientist, so I'm on the margins there. I can't get a job with those guys. But yeah, engineering, you can't go wrong with engineering.